Say hello to all of you during our second day of conferences during Podkarpackie Voivodeship exhibition in Dubai. Today we are going to talk about aviation and its future. It's quite easy to understand that during last two years we've got a lot of problems with, let's say, aviation branch because of pandemic time, because of that many trips were cancelled, that we were stuck to the homes. And during today's conference, we are trying to find some new solution for the aviation. We are going to ask the question if we should be back to the situation which was in 2019. So we have to be as big as we were in 2019, or we should switch, for example, to another fuel, to another way of transporting people, and so on. My name is Łukasz. I'm from University of Information Technology and Management in Rzeszów, and I'm really glad that I can be your host for today. Today we've got a really special day because this is the grand opening of our Podkarpackie Voivodeship exhibition. So first of all, I would like to ask Piotr Pilch, Vice Marshal of Podkarpackie Voivodeship, to talk a few words to all of you. Panie Wicemarszałku, serdecznie witam.
Lotnictwo i jego przyszłość. Czy leci z nami pilot?
Is there anybody that don't speak Polish? Okay.
Jeszcze raz? Lotnictwo i jego przyszłość. Czy leci z nami pilot? To temat tytułu pierwszego panelu konferencyjnego naszej obecności województwa podkarpackiego na Expo.
That's the first conference topic, aviation and its future, is pilot with us. So this is how we will start the conversation about the aviation at this conference.
Rozpoczniemy go w takim dwugłosie. Po mnie kilka zdań na ten temat powie nasz radny województwa podkarpackiego, pan Krzysztof Feret, który jest doktorem i specjalistą w zasadzie w zakresie logistyki transportu.
After me, there will be Dr. Ferret speaking, who is a professional when it comes to transportation and logistics.
Dlaczego mówimy o lotnictwie? Dlatego, że proszę Państwa, dla województwa podkarpackiego to jest bardzo ważna dziedzina gospodarki.
Why are we talking about the aviation? Because it's a very important branch of industry in our region.
90% polskiego przemysłu lotniczego jest skupione w zakładach na terenie naszego województwa.
90% of the aviation is located in our voivodeship.
To najbardziej znane firmy w świecie. Ale też, proszę Państwa, organizujemy jako województwo i wspieramy pokazy lotnicze, które co roku odbywają się na naszym terenie.
We are also supporting the airplane shows, which are taking place in our region. But there are also a lot of very big companies which are located in Podkarpackie Voivodeship.
Również uczestniczymy w największych pokazach lotniczych i konferencjach lotniczych w Europie.
We take place in the biggest airport shows and conferences all over Europe.
Promujemy lotnictwo, promujemy wszystko, co jest związane z przemysłem lotniczym. Mamy też port lotniczy Rzeszów-Jasionka, który się rozwija.
We are promoting everything connected to aviation, and we do own an airport which is located in Rzeszów, and it's developing every year.
Dzisiaj będziemy rozmawiali o przyszłości lotnictwa, czyli też przyszłości Podkarpacia.
Today we will be talking about the future of our region and also the future of aviation.
Gorąco Państwa zachęcam do wysłuchania i czynnego uczestnictwa w dzisiejszej konferencji.
Please be welcome to listen and participate in today's conference.
I zapraszam pana doktora Krzysztofa Ferreta.
And now Krzysztof Ferret will speak.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's very nice to be here. I'm honored to be here, and very nice to see you because you are the audience consisted of the professionals, people who represent the close insight into the subject of the crucial aspects of the Podkarpackie region, Podkarpackie voivodeship, the aspects that are extraordinarily influential in the perspective of the future of this very nice region. As mentioned before, I represent the 2 points of view, two ways of how to get the insight into the subject of the aviation industry, aviation business. The first one coming from my role of the councillor, of the member of the regional parliament, who is specifically interested in the regional parliament represents the authority of the voivodeship that represents furthermore the leading owner of the Rzeszów-Jasionka airport business. This is one side of my story, and the another one comes from my being the logistician by profession, the analyst that is deeply interested in everything that happens within the supply chains, the global supply chains, including the aviation business, the passenger cargo air transport, and everything that happens around that. Let me begin from the joke that is quite commonly quoted in the industry. The joke is as follows: how to become the millionaire. Just at the very beginning, you need to be billionaire, and then you need to buy the airline. This is the easy way of how to express all the aspects of the degree to which this business is sensitive on the several aspects that can bring this business up and down into the ruins as well. Sometimes. This is the set of the topics we ran during our discussions in the regional parliament, is how to find the optimal way of maintaining and developing the Rzeszów-Jasionka airport. There are several crucial challenges that we are focusing on every time. The first one is how to get the break-even point. Please be aware the Rzeszów-Jasionka airport is the case of the regional airport. There are several regional airports in Poland, and most of them exist under the break-even point from one side. From the other side, it's very difficult to find the optimal way of financing this business in order to keep, and to sustain the balance just within this business. The first way of how to do it is absolutely to develop the airline operations. We do our best in order to to cooperate with the airlines, because as you know, this aviation business consists of the two pillars. The first one is the airlines, and the airports is another side of the story. The development of the flight networks is very challenging and very demanding, and the crucial partner that is naturally interrelated and associated with the regional airports is this industry, this business, the sub-industry that represents the low-cost carriers, because they can locate their origins and destination just in the regional airports, like Rzeszów Jasionka is. Very, very different process. That's why the another leg, the another pillar that we can find as the strategic meaning one, is developing so-called non-aeronautical revenue. This is the set of the operations that allows us to use the aeronautical space of the airport in order to get it associated with all the businesses that can exist around the runway, around the terminal, in the close association with what happens just inside the terminal and on the runway. Also, long-term perspective, also very difficult way that despite the political division that is obvious in our regional parliament, we are agreed that there are both pillars that we are to get focused on in the strategic perspective of this business development. And so developing the airline operations, the aeronautical operations, non-aeronautical revenue is the second pillar, and the third one that is absolutely new one, coming from 2 weeks, no more, is the aspect of military usage and funding the regional airport as the member of the entire system of the national safety. You know that due to the war in Ukraine, that is still close to our hearts, and that happens nearby. Simply saying, there are a couple thousand of military troops from NATO that are allocated just in our in the places of our region devoted to this issue. This number of soldiers that are associated in the military troops today, and that what we can imagine in the future on the way of this military conflict spreads over the following territories. This requires the brilliant logistics that allows to shift and to put the military troops along with the associated equipment, including this one that is really heavy, from the point to point in the quickly, simply saying. It's not impossible to get it done without the involvement of the airport infrastructure. So this is why we can find the third pillar that reveals recently the pillar of the national safety that makes us thinking over how to rearrange the airport business model. Please find my speech as the introductive one that gives me the opportunity to draw the general picture of the strategic problems we are focalizing on in the regional parliament, in the regional authority that integrates all of us around, no matter what kind of the politics we represent. By the way, I'm the councillor from the opposite side of the political scene, opposite to Mr. Vice Marshal. But regardless of that, we are both on the same way of thinking. I would like to wish you the fruitful discussion. I'm very honored and I'm very glad to be here. And I would expect your suggestions, your insights into the subject, your points of view will be able to give us the impression for making the proper strategic decisions, because it's absolutely our top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say thank you to the Vice Marshal, Mr. Piotr Plich, and to the member of Podkarpackie Voivodeship Assembly, Dr. Krzysztof Feret. Thanks for that introduction, because it was much better than mine. I'm really glad about that. So right now, let's go to our speeches. First will be about the fuel of the future. I would like to say like that. So it will be about hydrogen. On the stage there is Professor Jarosław Semp, and Professor Majka is with us in his mind, let's say, because he have to stay in Poland. But give some applause to Professor Semp. I will give you microphone and good speech.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to be with you today. And today I would like to present you speech aviation about hydrogen as an aviation fuel. The presentation is prepared by two authors. We are all representing Rzeszów University of Technology, but unfortunately Professor Majka was not able to come, so I will present all the topic. Why hydrogen? And thank you for a great introduction, but I would like to point out for the beginning that ecology may limit aviation operation in the future, and we have to think about ecology in aviation operations. So there is the base of our presentation is hydrogen as the fuel of the future. Excuse me for a moment. If I would like to point out for something on the screen, I will do it by my hand because laser is danger for the metrics of TV set. Okay, so let's. Okay. This is the second presentation. It will be much better for me if we will start from the first presentation, the second in the order now. Is it possible to do it? Because
I think, yeah, but
it's no problem to me to do it in the opposite way, but it would be better for.
skip slides, I think, but because
Okay.
it will be.
Okay, so I will skip slides. Excuse me for a moment.
There's no yours. Sorry for that. Give me one moment.
Okay, because
Sorry for that, because we've got a small, let's say, change, and probably I put not the proper presentation for Jarosław. So if we can, we'll put you as a second speaker, and right now
no problem
there will be
me.
Vadim.
Okay, I will.
Okay?
Okay.
So Vadim, where is Vadim?
Vadim is absent.
Okay. Okay, Vadim is in. So, Vadim, could you start? Because we've got some small problem with the presentation of Professor. Because of me, of course. Okay. So, the stage is yours. Vadim, CEO of Drone Hub. He will be talking about drone from the box. Let's say some autonomous systems. Yeah, so Vadim, the time is yours. Let's start.
Thank you. It's not drone on the box, but in the box, but that's fine. Hi, my name is Vadim. I was trying to wear a jacket today, but it's too hot, so sorry for how I look like. And I'm the founder of Drone Hub. And, you know, the part of Poland we're in is called the Aviation Valley, and it's known mostly for large airplanes, services, motors, and so on. But in the heart of Aviation Valley, there is a place called Jasionka, and there are a few technological startups that are developing a so-called urban air mobility, which in easy words are drones. So I represent a very unique company because we don't do drones, we do the infrastructure for them. And a few words about drones and why we are in. Right now, the potential market for the drones is $24 billion. It's a huge global market. And yesterday, we were using the drones mostly in military and for wedding shooting, right? Today, drones are becoming more and more popular in last mile delivery, in border control, in everything you can potentially automate by drones. And who knows what will be tomorrow. But all this sounds like a beautiful poetry. You know, Amazon is saying that we use the drones to deliver packages. Some companies say we use the drones to deliver blood samples. Some companies do automated monitoring. All this sounds cool, but there is one fundamental problem on the drone market in every drone we use, both civilian or military one. And this is a battery. Every drone is flying about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we need a so-called protein interface, a human, somebody who will take control over the drone, land it, exchange the battery, so the drone can fly another 30 minutes. And everybody who is talking that they're using autonomous drones, it's not true, because behind every drone there is an operator. So in 2017, we decided to revolutionize this business. We created the autonomous box where any industrial drone can land autonomously without a human operator, exchange his battery, and then continue the mission. And thanks to network of these drone hubs, we call it them drone hubs, the flight time of the drone stops being a problem. So the drone can fly that 30, 40 minutes. When the battery ends, he just lands on the hub, swaps the battery, and then continues its mission. This is how it looks like. And the automation of the drones became so popular that we started selling it to both defense, like European Defense Agency, European Space Agency, Polish Orlen. But it was only half of the equation, right? Because after the drone lands, you still need a protein interface, a human, that will grab data, images gathered by the drone and process them to make some decisions, right? And we decided to work on the software that will also automate data processing from the drones. And this is what is, this is what is a drone hub. A drone hub is an automated solution that enables drone to fly autonomously, to automate mission planning, to automate image gathering, and then automate data processing. And right now, this is a European leader in so-called drone-in-a-box solutions. Here I have a video how it looks like.
We all know that in today's industrial world, security is a top priority. Protecting critical infrastructure is essential. The key to all security events is immediate reaction and quick response to the threat. Both can be handled by the Drone Hub, your next security guard from the sky. Drone Hub is a game changer for security teams. It gives you an instant site overview and can enhance incident response with a highly automated drone services. The hub replaces the drone's battery in just 2 minutes and is equipped with the climate control and the weather station. This allows our drones to operate under all weather conditions, making it perfect for 24/7 hourly usage. Drone Hub can be deployed ad hoc in any location where the drone services are required. Thanks to the integration of the Borea perimeter sensor with the Drone Hub, after detecting a violation and triggering an alarm, the system automatically sends the drone to monitor the unprotected area. The real-time image from the drone is delivered to the security monitors to decide what security measure to take. See yourself how Drone Hub optimizes security inspection. Book a demo with us today or find out more about our solution on dronehub.ai. Thank you.
Before I go to the next few slides, I just want to briefly show you the potential of automation, drone automation using the Drone Hub. We have a very interesting client. It's the largest railway operator in Europe. It's called Deutsche Bahn. And Deutsche Bahn hires more than 10,000 people whose role is very simple. Every morning they go to the railway in the pairs of 2 and they check the status of the railway. They check if any tree has fallen or not. They check if the railway is operable so the train can go through and so on. The typical operator is processing around 16 kilometers of railway per day. And Deutsche Bahn hires more than 10,000 people. So a few years ago, they came to us and asked, is it possible to automate this by drones? And we said, like any startup, of course, fake it till you make it. But then we met with their business teams, with their technologists, and we started working on an integrated product from Deutsche Bahn and Drone Hub, where we install drone hubs every 30 kilometers along the railway. And one drone is jumping from one drone hub to another. And between these flight jumps, it gathers all the visual information from the LiDARs, 3D sensor, from the thermal camera, from the RGB camera. And then we have the cloud where this information is being processed and analyzed. And after 2 years of works, Deutsche Bahn has an almost ready system where they can replace 10,000 people with only a few machines. And one drone hub, one system, one drone can analyze about 160 kilometers per day. This is 10 times more than 2 people can do in a day. This system is turned around in a long-term perspective is more than 30 times cheaper than hiring people. And this system works 24/7 because, you know, person can get sick, person can have a hangover, he can do his work shitty, Drone Hub always works perfectly. And after working with Deutsche Bahn, we found out that they got something that they never even thought about. Because when person is gathering this information from the railway, they're doing it on a piece of paper. They write that on this piece of track, there is a problem and the problem ID. And by mail, they send this information. When we started gathering the images, 3D images, thermal data, and so on, and when we had enough data, we applied the predictive maintenance algorithms. And right now, with Deutsche Bahn, we help them to predict where the railway will break before it even breaks. And this is something revolutionary for them. And when we started working on this, we found out that this is the problem of every single railway in the world. NBSF, American Railway, PKP in Poland, and so on. So this is only one of the examples how Drone Hub can optimize cost. The other very simple, very interesting example is Polish company, you probably all know it, it's called Orlen. And in Plock, they have this huge refinery. It's more than 700 hectares of land, and they process all the oil and gas and other minerals over there. I would say it's a city inside the city because more than 50,000 people are working there, and they have a very small security team. And sometimes when there is a breakage onto the territory or some other kind of the event, it takes around 20 to 30 minutes for the security team to arrive, which doesn't make any sense, right? So we installed a Drone Hub and the Varia perimeter security system, which you saw in the video, and we reduced the time of the response from 30 minutes to less than 2 minutes. Now, when the system detects an alarm, the drone starts from the Drone Hub and flies with a speed of around 120 kilometers per hour and streams the real live data. So the operator and the security team knows if they need to take any action. And the last but not least, which I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, is this last mile delivery. Everybody is talking about this. The regulations are still not 100% ready to allow this in the cities, but we have a very beautiful example with one of our medical clients. When we started working on the Drone Hubs, we saw that it can be potentially used for the last mile delivery, but we never saw business in that. But then, a medical client, which is a large laboratory diagnostic company, came to us and said, guys, we have a problem, because places where we build our diagnostic labs are usually, should be in a really well-connected places, so that there is no traffic jams, cars can get easily, and so on. And in large cities, there are fewer and fewer places like that. And if they are very expensive. We want to start building our diagnostic labs outside of the city, but then it's a problem for our clients, because our clients cannot come outside of the city to make a simple test. So they decided that they want to build small diagnostic labs where they will only take the analysis from the client and then send by the drones to the big diagnostic labs outside of the city. And when they started analyzing all the business plan, it turned out that the final solution to cover Warsaw and its surroundings would be at least 2 to 3 times cheaper than the existing solution where they buy extremely expensive land, which is well connected with the car infrastructure. So these are a few examples how Drone Hub, the company which was born in Poland, in Jasionka, is revolutionizing different industries. This should have been all of my presentation, but my partner from different company called Xerol didn't manage to arrive today to Dubai because he made an antigen COVID test instead of the PCR. And he didn't allow him to get on the airplane. So he asked me to make a short presentation about his company, which I'm proudly also a co-founder, and it's called Xerol. This is a very unique and interesting product, which is born also in our office. We have offices next to each other in Jasionka, and this is something very, very unique. And why? Xerol is the only drone in the world that can fly, drive, and swim. It's an all-terrain, truly all-terrain drone, and the most interesting about this, that it has a patented solution in 95% of the globe. Everywhere, in China, in the European Union, in the United States, it has a patented solutions. And it started as a very simple idea because VTech took part in this military DARPA competition in the United States, and they needed to create a drone which would land on the 45-degree roof and monitor what is going on under the roof. And neither at that time, neither now, drone cannot do this, because if they land on the 45-degree roof, they just fall, right? So VTech, as an artist, decided, okay, I'll make the wheels for the drone. And it worked. He won the competition, and his solution was so interesting that he decided that he will patent it. Unfortunately, probably you know, patenting the solution is very expensive, so he started looking for money for that. And at that time, it was 2011 or 2012, he went on Kickstarter platform, and without paying a penny into the marketing, he raised $250,000. And this money were enough for him to cover the patent, open the company, and then happened something very interesting. When he was at his Kickstarter campaign, this drone was so popular on the media that Sylvester Stallone team saw it on the media, and he said, I want this in my movie. And that movie was Expendables 3. So if you watch the Expendables 3, on the 54th minute, I believe, there's this drone. And after that, it became a widely popular global product. Right now, you can buy this small solution on the market, on Allegro, Amazon, eBay, anywhere in the world. This bigger solution is dedicated to the military and defense. And what is VTech working right now on, and this is something that just blew my mind, and this is probably why he wanted to be here today. He's working on this kind of drone at the scale 1-to-1. So the person can sit inside and drive, and where he cannot drive, he will fly. And this product, this car, this autonomous flying car, started in Jasionka. I believe that in June this year, it will be available for the private test. So if you ever come back to Poland and you want to try it, I don't want to be a tester. I don't trust VTech so much. But if you want to test, it will be available for testing. And last but not least, VTech asked me to mention that he also works on the solution for the so-called SAR, Search and Rescue. He created a drone, which is propeller scale. So this drone can carry up necessary items when somebody is lost in the mountains. This solution was already tested in Czech Republic, I believe, and Slovakia. It's working. It was funded from the EU project. And yeah, that's all right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vadim. It was really a nice presentation, and I'm really glad that you you just fulfilled my gap because of the presentation of Professor Semp. Right now, the second speaker, the first but second, Professor Jarosław Semp. One more time, I would like to say
thank you.
Sorry. Right now, it should work perfectly.
The last will be the first in the future, so...
Yeah, I hope so.
I had a little false start, but I will try once again. Dear audience, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present the topic hydrogen as aviation fuel. The presentation was prepared by two authors, by me and by Professor Majka and we are representing Rzeszów University of Technology. And let me start from the few general remarks. We are talking a lot about the nature in the light of our region, but we must know that the nature, the world is threatened by a climate catastrophe, and the counting down time to the catastrophe was launched in Manhattan in September 2020, and there are only few years to make significant changes in our relation to the earth, to the nature. And one of the main dangers to our nature is the big global CO2 emission as a result of burning fossil fuels, and as can be observed on the slide, this emission is still increasing, slightly decreasing in 2020 was independent influence on COVID-19 pandemic. And the result of this emission is increasing of global average temperature, and if emissions continue at current rate in 2040, the increase in temperature will be 1.5 Celsius degree above pre-industrial levels. It's very dangerous, and we have to do something with these dangerous trends. And what will be the solutions? What will be the ways of reducing CO2 emissions? One of them will be hydrogen energy, especially when hydrogen will be generated from renewable, for example, solar energy. Then, during combustion process, only water, of course, only water with energy is emitted, and then we may obtain zero emission level. Unfortunately, the green hydrogen is very expensive one, so we have partial solutions, and when we generate hydrogen from natural gas, from methane, we may obtain partial reduction of CO2 emission, especially in urban areas when in the vehicles fuel cells will be used as an energy source. In energy fuels, hydrogen is transformed to electric power. And nowadays, the application of hydrogen to produce energy is relatively small, but there are forecasts that in 2050 the hydrogen energy use will be about 500 million tons, the most in transport, deep purple on the graph, more than 100 million tons. And there are examples of application of hydrogen as a fuel in low emission transport, mainly ground transport, and we may see on the slide passenger car powered by hydrogen. There are also buses driven by hydrogen. There are buses from Sanok, town from Podkarpackie. Now during homologation process, there is a question: where is the closest hydrogen filling station closest to Sanok? What is the answer to this question? In Berlin, unfortunately. So we have to do also something in our country. Also trains and small ships may be powered by hydrogen. But we are talking about aviation, and now let's go back to our region. We are all know where our region is located, but I would like to come back to our region in the perspective on the last 20 years. And 20 years ago, Aviation Valley was established in our region. And Aviation Valley is the association of businessmen of aviation and aerospace industry in Poland. And our university, Rzeszów, my and Professor Majka, our as a regional university, is also part of this Aviation Valley. And our university has a status of Advanced Technologies Center. And our goal is to transfer knowledge to the industry and generating research programs which are significant to aircraft industry. And also, Rzeszów University of Technology is the leader of the Center of Advanced Technologies, Aeronet, which covers 12 universities and research institutions from all the country. But this is a short presentation of our university. Our university today is divided into 7 faculties. We are offering for our students 30 courses of study. We are educating close to 11,000 students, and our academic staff counts 850 academic teachers. And our university, Rzeszów University of Technology, my university, has close cooperation with industry, and especially in the field of education and R&D project. And we are especially close to the aviation industry. And also we have in our structure very unique elements, very unique parts. First of them is Aviation Training Center. This is the biggest in the oldest civil training center in our country. We have been training aviation civil pilot since 1976. And here the fleet of our training center is presented, and the fleet of this center counts close to 20 aircraft. And we have also another more unique place, magic place, in Bezmiechowa. Bezmiechowa is located approximately 100 kilometers to the south from our university, from Rzeszów University of Technology. And this is the University Gliding Center, which educates pilots and glider mechanics. And you are all welcome to this center. It is really a beautiful place. See on the picture, glider and our building of this center. And coming to the challenges of climate problems, we have new idea in our region. In November 2021, we established Subcarpathian Hydrogen Valley Association, also in our region, and this is the association of persons and institutions interested in supporting the development of the hydrogen economy. We have a few goals connected with a hydrogen economy, and this is the answer from our region to global climate challenges. And when we look to hydrogen as aircraft fuel, we have to state that there is the idea of the future. Because the first zero-emission commercial aircraft will be finished approximately in 2035. This is the forecast made by Airbus. And turbojets and turboprops are used to hydrogen as a fuel in the future. And probably the zero-emission models will be powered by modified gas turbine engines that burn liquid hydrogen as a fuel. And this kind of engine will be supported by electricity which will be generated in fuel cells. But what will be in the future we will see, because there are only general conceptions of hydrogen-powered aircrafts, and we will see the example presented by Airbus of turbojet, props aircraft, and also same futuristic shapes. What will be in the future, we will see, but now we will come back to nowadays, and I would like to present the second part of presentation, prepared by Professor Andrzej Majka, and we come back to details of hydrogen as an aviation fuel in the lights of technical possibilities and also in the light of some facts connected with aviation. Let's have a look for key facts and figures from 1917, before the COVID era. And we may observe that there are many aviation operations all over the world. The numbers are really huge, but we have to point out that a lot of fuel is used by commercial operators, 275 million tons, and tons of carbon dioxide, CO2, is emitted by airlines. And it may cause, and it causes also ecological problem. Nowadays, especially in 2020, as the effect of pandemic of COVID-19, we observed rapidly decreasing of flights. And I think that it will be only a small point in the history, and there are forecasts, we may observe here the panels of scenarios, that number of flights will increase, and in 2023, 2024, the number of flight operations will be greater than one in 2019. So we probably will observe increasing of number of flight operations in the future. And this is the scenario of emission of CO2, and we have here different scenarios. The pessimistic scenario, when we will not do anything, the emission of CO2 will still increasing. It will be very bad for our climate if this situation will take place. And of course, we may do evolution actions. A list of them is presented here, and a little decreasing of CO2 emission may be obtained. But probably now it's time for revolution, and this revolution allows us to decrease CO2 emission to zero in the perspective of 2050. And this revolution means new engines and zero emission fuels. And we have 5 key barriers related to use hydrogen technologies in air transport. We have to remember that. And the barriers are listed on this slide, and we have to invest a lot of funds to obtain our goals in the area of use hydrogen as fuel in aviation. And we may see interesting facts when we compare new technology and new aviation fuels. Aviation fuels as biofuels, synthetic fuels, battery electric, and hydrogen. What we will see in this slide. The first two fuels, biofuels and synthetic fuels, are partial solution, and biofuels has no limitation of range, limited reduction of CO2 emissions, and no change to aircraft infrastructure. Very similar in the case of synthetic fuels, no limitation of range, no change to aircraft or infrastructure, and also limited reduction of CO2 effects. Battery electric, not applicable for medium range, and maximum ranges up to 500 to 1,000 kilometers. Hydrogen, no limitation of range, and may be also applied in medium and low range flights. This is very important, but let's come back to battery electric. No climate impact in flight, and change in infrastructure is required, and hydrogen, high reduction of potential climate impact, and change to infrastructure. But we may obtain fuel effect in reduction of CO2 emission. So, 19% of European flights are shorter than 3,300 kilometers, and these flights are responsible for approximately 50% of CO2 emissions. Most of CO2 emissions come from intercontinental flights. 10% of flights generates 50% of CO2 emissions. So, without burning hydrogen directly in aircraft engine, long-term environmentally friendly flights will not take place. It is very, very great challenge for aircraft industry now. And we have to also remember that new fuels, ecological fuels, are expensive fuels. This is the cost of kerosene, and the graph is presented the cost of synthetic fuels and hydrogen fuels. The prices may be similar in 2050. And our University of Technology, Rzeszów University of Technology, has high competences in the area of R&D and educational activities related to the implementation of hydrogen technologies in the industry, and we are ready to take this challenge. We've just started to do it. We are now preparing the laboratory to investigate processes of burning hydrogen in aircraft engines. It's not simple task because hydrogen laboratory and hydrogen as an energy source is a new challenge and new solutions are required. But we've just started to do it, and I think that in the future we will help our industrial partners to solve many, many problems and barriers in application of hydrogen in aviation in aircraft. One of examples of final effects of our activities is H2 motor glider, AOS H2 motor glider, which is designing and manufacturing in our university. So this is the example of our competences and our possibilities. The scheme of the glider is presented here on the slide. And thank you very much for attention, and I think it's time for questions and discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think that the questions will be during the discussion panel, so I would like to invite you to take a seat. Vadim, take another seat. And right now we are going to discuss a little bit about the topic, which is quite tricky one, because I would like, and it will be in general, the first question. Do we fly with a pilot? Do we need a pilot in an aircraft right now? Maybe Professor can be.
It's closer to Vadim.
Sure. So this question has no simple answer. In the drone industry, when we are designing aircrafts, drones, we call them unmanned aerial vehicles, right? Because at the very beginning, at the philosophy of drones, we want them to be unmanned, autonomous, without any human. But the traditional airplane industry is a little bit different because, there is something called status quo. If something works, we usually leave it like this. And if we've been flying with the pilots in the airplanes for the last, 100 years, right? So people are afraid to change it and swap to a machine. And I believe this is the main problem because the airplanes right now are flying almost autonomously. The pilot, from what I know, is needed usually at the beginning of the flight and the end of the flight. And all the time in between, which can be from 20 minutes to a few hours, is not needed. So I would say that right now, and Boeing Airbus already tested the autonomous airplanes, we can fly autonomously. But that 200-300 people that are inside the airplane, they don't trust the machine so much to allow them to take control over them. And I believe this won't change until until probably the next generation, because even me, which is fully in the drone autonomous industry, I would be a little afraid to trust machine 100% because it's only a machine, it's created by people, and it can have mistakes. Probably you all know about this Boeing situation where a few hundred airplanes were landed because there was a bug in the software. And right now, seeing that we have a few thousand, maybe 100,000 airplanes in the world, and they all use the same software which allow them to fly autonomously, and they have the same bug. And at some very specific condition that they may happen, a few hundred airplanes may fall with the few thousand people on board. This will be the end of the airplane era. So I think it's more a philosophical question.
Okay, thanks. Professor?
Exactly. My answer will be very quick. Technically, it's almost possible to fly without pilot, but the question is, are we really ready for it from the psychological point of view? That is the question. Its answer is very difficult. In my opinion, not. We are not ready to flight without pilot from the psychological point of view. This is a problem.
Yeah.
Mainly psychological, less technical.
Yeah, and we still have to hire them. It's a place for work, so.
Perhaps for younger population in the near future it will be possible. I'm afraid for my generation.
Yeah, okay. I think that pilot can be some kind of supervisor of the machine. So he's just sitting and watching if everything is okay. Don't touch anything. Yeah.
But in general, we have be ready as a people to cooperate with artificial intelligence in different solutions, and perhaps in the future, pilot will be some kind of combination between human and artificial intelligence.
You know, it may sound strange for me because I'm a techie guy, but I don't believe in artificial intelligence. And there are a few very technical reasons for that. Because right now, I would say artificial intelligence, it's more of the sci-fi concept, it's more of the PowerPoint concept, but in real life it doesn't exist and won't exist for many, many years. There have been a few very interesting tests in the world with the scientists who are working with artificial intelligence. In 2019, there was an experiment wherein the scientists tried to reproduce the brain of the simple fly. It has only 250 neurons, so it was around 10 to 15,000 connections. It took them around 3 years to create this computer system that will copy how the fly brain works. And it didn't work. It didn't work because they copied, in technological perspective, the hardware, but they were not able to copy the software. They were not able to make this decision-making process appropriate. Right now, when we are talking about machine learning, we are talking about a system that, when having enough data, can, on the similar pieces of data, make similar decisions, right? But our human brain is working in a totally different way. We are learning unsupervised. We don't need a supervisor to learn new things, and this is still not possible in the machine learning and won't be possible for the next 20, 40, maybe 50 years. Right now, what we are seeing is our technology is becoming more human. We are able to talk to our smartphone, we are able to talk to our TV, and they start being able to respond to us. And this will be a trend for the next 10 to 15 years. But the real machine learning, it's still years and years in front of us.
Yes, but we are talking about the future. I have a simple question. To all of us. Do you use application, for example, like Janosik or something similar? When we drive using Janosik, we are trusting artificial intelligence. Yeah, I know this algorithm. These algorithms are very similar, are very simple. Predictive maintenance of machining of aircraft ILOs is area of my scientific activity, and I agree with you. It doesn't work, but the problem is if it will work in the future.
Yeah, in general, I think that it's really close to the subject of the whole exhibition, creative by nature. The fly is creative by nature. The artificial brain of the fly was created by people, by technology. Maybe that's why it doesn't work. I think that AI can be really good for predictions, but we still need humans to be creative. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course the future is very big question mark. So I don't know what it will be next 10, even 5 years, I think.
One more sentence. There are forecasts made probably by Elon Musk when in 2025 artificial intelligence will be stronger than human intelligence. We will see. 5 years or 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Okay, so let's switch a little bit to another thing. Do we really need the new fuel? I know, of course, I know the answer. It's more rhetorical, but do we need fuel and what kind of it? Because as we know, we've got a lot of alternatives. And we have to deal with this CO2 dioxide emission, carbon dioxide emission. We have to deal with greenhouse gases and so. So, do we really need that?
Yes, in my opinion, we should try to look for a new fuel for aircraft, but not only for aircraft. It must be system of new fuels in our activity, and also we are looking for new fuel for our cars, trains, ships, etc. And we have to really, as people, decrease the emission of CO2, because if we will not stop trends of increasing of CO2 emissions, we will may finish in climate catastrophe. It will be terrible for all of us. The question is what kind of alternative fuel should be used in our aircraft. The answer is not simple. In my opinion, we've just started the way to hydrogen as a fuel on the future, but probably the way to the hydrogen as a fuel of the future will go by synthetic fuels or biofuels with a partial decreasing of CO2 emission. This is my opinion. And we've just started to work on it.
Well, again, it's a philosophy question. Why do we need new fuel? With the fuel we have right now, we can drive, we can fly, we can swim, we can go out of space, right? So why do we need new fuel? In my opinion, and I see this a very new trend in the humanity in general starting to grow, we don't want to be kings of the nature as we wanted to by the last few thousand years. We want to start living in synergy with the nature. And I see it a lot in the technological market, because we talk a lot about human-computer interface, how we live in synergy with computers, how machine learning will support us, not become smarter than us. So I don't believe that AI will kill us, probably it will be a synergy. And the same is with fuel. I believe that in the next few years, the very new types of fuel will appear. Hydrogen is one of them, solar panels, green energy, atomic energy, and a lot of them are around the corner. And I believe that when people will be choosing new sources of energy, it will be from the psychological perspective. How is it green? Is it safe? And will it be better than what we had? So that's why I believe that hydrogen, it's a great source of power, because it doesn't get the CO2 effect. It's energy efficient, and it's cheap. At least in perspective, it will be cheap. So yeah, and from the technological perspective, I would say right now we don't need new fuel, because cars are driving. To get from oil cars to electric cars or to hydrogen cars, it takes a lot of investment, and the return on this investment will be in the dozens of years from now. So the reason why we are switching to a new power is because we want to live in a synergy with the world. We finally started to understand that the world resources are not endless, and we finally started understanding that if we don't stop now using this fuel, oil, gas, then there will be no future. So,
yeah, but maybe we know that we've got limitation of oil, gas, and coal. So we have to predict somehow how to manage with the problem of being out of the gas, being out of the oil, and so. Yeah, in general, that was quite philosophical one, but it gave me some impression of what you're thinking.
Not only philosophical, but now also a political question about fuels of the future.
We see how the prices are rising.
Yes,
Especially in Poland, for example.
exactly.
well, I would say, getting back to what you said, people are not very good at predicting. We are, once again?
We've done AI.
True. But what I mean is innovation is usually disruptive innovation, is usually created by crazy minds which totally don't fit the crowd. And think about recent few years. Take Elon Musk, which I don't really like as a person, but he's a genius as an entrepreneur. Take him out of the equation, nobody would be talking about electric cars today. Nobody, because he started this trend, and more or less. But he really started this trend and pushed it to the masses. And if not him, we would still be driving this fuel, oil cars at the moment. And if you look back at the history, all disruptive innovation is created in this way. People are not good at predicting because. Let's take Henry Ford. Before he created cars, everybody was riding horses and people were okay with this. And when you ask them, they just needed more horses and the horses that run faster. And the same is with fuel.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I really close to this statement that we need to be in synergy with the nature. And that's why I would like to ask Professor about this methane, which is used to produce hydrogen. Methane is a greenhouse gas. So
Yes.
if we use it to produce hydrogen, we are helping the nature because there will be less of methane. But yeah, it's
Okay.
tricky because we use this methane which is under the earth probably, so we have to take it from there, and not the methane which is really high.
Yes, you are totally right. So it is difficult to discuss with your point of view, but we have different colors of hydrogen. The most expected is green hydrogen, generated from renewable, for example, solar energy. The next one is blue hydrogen from methane, from natural gas. This is the solution for our times. It's not ideal solution, but we generate hydrogen from methane, and methane is not emitted to our atmosphere. So this is hydrogen generated with little emission with CO2, but this emission is smaller than in the case of burning fossil fuels. So it may be the first step of our activities aimed to decrease our emission of CO2, I think.
Okay.
The first step. It's not the ideal solution of the problem.
Yeah, so making small steps give us a really big solution. Yeah, but water is in case of gas is greenhouse gas as well. But
It's not problem for our nature.
I know, because nature, it's really in the nature. It's really easy to transfer to the water like
This
a rain.
this gas
Yeah.
will go very fast out to the earth from the atmosphere.
Okay, I would like to ask Vadim. Say me, drones are going on electricity. Is there any chance that the fuel, let's say fuel, the power in a drone will be from different source?
Definitely. For companies that are using drones, it doesn't matter if it's, let's say, when you're talking about the drones, companies don't care if it's DJI, Unique, or any other kind of drones. They want the effect. And the effect is make a photo, take some video, analyze some piece of terrain and so on. And today's batteries are very extremely limited. And this is the main reason why our technology appeared, because we are helping to automate drone battery swapping. If drone would be flying 24/7, our technology and whole business wouldn't be needed. I know that there are a few experiments in the world right now with the fuel hydrogen batteries for the drones, and it shows very spectacular results because the drones are capable of flying for 72 hours, where right now the maximum flight time on an electricity battery is, let's say, an hour, so it's more than 70 times more efficient. But again, the problem is with the costs and the infrastructure, because let's not talk about the military and defense. If we're talking about the public sector, they look for the return on the investment, right? And if something is more expensive than the ROI, they won't invest into this. And this is the problem with the hydrogen fuel batteries, because their cost is way far beyond than the return on the investment from the product itself. It's the first thing, and the second thing is infrastructure. With the electricity battery, it's very easy to replace them. Even if you don't have drone hub, you can just take 10 batteries into your backpack and drive to the field. With the hydrogen battery, it will not work like this. You need a very complex, expensive infrastructure to replace the battery. And until those two problems are solved, drones will not use anything besides lithium-ion and lithium polymer batteries.
Okay, thanks. You mentioned, Professor, that you are somehow part of Aviation Volley, and you are starting this hydrogen volley. We know that we've got in Subcarpathia as well Cosmic Volley. If Cosmic is the industry for alternative fuels as well, so if we can use this, for example, hydrogen to go to the moon, I don't know, to the Mars or something like this, or even just to the orbit.
Probably it's difficult to answer your question precisely, but hydrogen is used as a source of energy for rockets, for example. And this is nothing new for, I think, cosmic sector to use hydrogen energy. So I think that we have to connect our activities of Aviation Valley, of our Cosmic Valley, and also the activities of Subcarpathian Aviation Valley to reach our goals. But we are on the beginning of the way, and part of enterprises which created Subcarpathian Hydrogen Valley are also enterprises from Aviation and Cosmic Valley. So I think that we are now connecting our forces to reach new challenges, to answer the questions and challenges of climate.
Yeah. Okay. Are we going to travel using drones? Because you said that there are some ideas about that. Even you said that there will be the drone who will transfer or be able to use by human. So
You know, a few years ago it sounded like science fiction, but when you invest a lot of money into science fiction, it becomes reality and business. And the same was with, let's say, blockchain. 5-6 years ago, everybody was laughing in it. Nobody thought it would be a very big deal. Right now, you know, more and more companies are using it. In one of the companies, we don't, when we want to raise the money for scaling the company, we're not thinking about the traditional venture capitalist. We're thinking about generated tokens, selling it to private people who own Bitcoin, Ethereum, and use their money to scale faster and without all these problems that come with the VC on your cap table. And the same with the drones. 10 years ago, everybody was laughing in it. I remember when I was studying in high school, I was building the first drone, and I was considered as a really geeky person because nobody saw any potential into it. And right now, Lilium, the German-based company, which is working in this urban air mobility sector, has gone through IPO and raised €500 million. During the next few years, more and more drone companies will get onto IPO, will get onto NASDAQ, and will become next big things like big four right now, like Google, Netflix, Amazon, Facebook. So people will definitely travel by drones, and even if it's not as efficient right now as it seems, there are people in the world who can pay money for this. And if somebody can pay money for something, that will probably exist. And as soon and through the time, the technology will be better developed. It will become cheaper, more available, and in the future, the taxis like Uber, like any other taxi, will be autonomous and will be flying. Because getting from point A to point B over the air is always quicker than going through the city and traffic jams. Look at the movie The Fifth Element. Yeah, I would say it's the future of public transportation, and there are already. It's not a science fiction. Lilium is a company that has a working product. They're going through the certification process, which is extremely hard in the European Union, and after they finish it, they will start selling their taxis all around the world. And the same with the biotechnology company. They're creating this autonomous flying car, and sometime in the future they will find a portion on the market and also start offer their services, I don't know, maybe to military, maybe to defense, and maybe to the public sector. But definitely is the future. You know, if you look at the stock exchange at the Uber company, most of their valuation is not because they are a transportation company. It's based on the vision that they will use all their network, all their business relation, and in the future, when autonomous cars will be available, they will replace drivers with the artificial intelligence and with the flying taxis. And that's why Uber costs so much, because otherwise it's just a taxi company.
yeah, interesting, especially when I imagine this situation when we can go with a drone from one place to another. Yeah, it will be really fast if there will be one drone.
Yes.
But if there will be hundreds of them,
Traffic of drones in the air. in the future.
If I can add a little bit, because I'm a lot into the drone market, and in Poland we have something which is very revolutionary on the global scale. It's called Pansa UTM. It's a system developed by the Polish Air Navigation Service. They've been working multiple years on this, and it's the first system in the world that allows all the airplanes, helicopters, small drones, air taxis to communicate between each other and dynamically build the roads to avoid the collisions. And it's something that is already working. Pansa, a Polish air navigation agency, has received, I believe, 60 or 70 million euros from the European Commission to finish it, adapt, so it will be ready in Poland, publicly available by 2024. And they will start also implementing and selling it probably in the rest of the European Union. So this is the very important thing, and I am very proud that it was developed in Poland.
And probably this is the place for AI.
yeah, maybe.
How do you think?
Maybe, and I saw that Vadim many times said that, and that will be for AI. Especially when you are so not so optimistic about AI, it's really funny. Okay, maybe someone from you, audience, do you have any questions about the new fuels, some future in aviation? You are really invited to ask them, of course, because this is really open discussion panel. So if there will be any question, just give me some mark. Okay, on your slide, Professor, there was statement that we will be in optimistic scenario. We will be back about the aviation, of course, taking into account this COVID situation in 2023. This is really good prediction. I think really optimistic, because the business need that, because aviation, it's not only about aviation, it's about the whole business. Should we go back to this year, or we should just make something really new and totally forgot about this really highly emission way of traveling and so?
This is very good question. Preparing these slides, my colleague, Professor Mike, I think, rely on forecasts made by specialists from, yes, probably, who knows. And I answer in that way, that our businessmen from Aviation Valley would like that these forecasts will be reality in the future. They would like to renovate operations made by aviation in general. But I think that the situation was very complex, because new ways of communication of people. I mean applications, software like Teams and Zoom and others. And in my opinion, this new kind of communication between people decrease air operation, air flights, especially business flights, because communication between new software, not new, but used now technologies will decrease business meetings, because it's probably possible to discuss using this kind of communicators. So I think that in very optimistic scenario, we will come back to number of flights in in 2023-24, in a very optimistic scenario, we will come back to the number of flights of 2019. That's 2019.
Yeah.
Let me ask Mr. Vadim about the details referring to the operational aspects. I'm not in the subject, in the technical side, but that's what I'm really interested in is how to run the operations in frame of the aviation business doing with the drones getting integrated gradually. My question is as follows. What are the barriers that you can see lying behind this quick integration? And furthermore, is it possible to integrate the drones as the aircrafts into the existing traffic control systems? Because you know it's very sensitive, it's very risky, it's very demanding in the area of controlling everything that happens around in the air in the given point of time. All these aircrafts being at the moment in the airspace are to be responsive, are to be controlled, are to be manageable in order to, as you mentioned, avoid the conflicts and the crashes, in fact. Whether the drones, based on the concept that you just put into the implementation, are ready or almost ready to get integrated into the general traffic control, traffic operating system, and whether it can be the barriers for getting them integrated. Thank you.
Thank you a lot for this very long question. Let's divide it into the few parts. First of all, the communication between in the airspace, it's a very fundamental problem of the whole urban air mobility. And this is the human problem, I would say, first of all, because with the airplane, you need a lot of money to build it, right? An airplane costs a few $100 million. With the drone, it takes a few $100 to build it. And this is the biggest fundamental problem, that we cannot, as for the moment, we cannot control the small drones created by physical operators which do not have, which are not connected to the communication system. And for the moment, there is no solution for this. And this is the biggest drawback, and this is the biggest regulation problem, and the problem why drones are not widely available, because technology is not smart enough at the moment to dynamically make the obstacle avoidance in the air, because in theory it sounds easy. If we use a lidar, if we use some kind of sensor or camera, we can detect the drone in front of us and avoid it, right? In practice, it doesn't work like this, because drones can be very small and they are flying at the very high speeds. A typical drone is flying around 15 to 20 meters per second, which is 70 kilometers per hour. And if we have a camera which is doing 30 fraps per second, we'll have less than 1 second to react, which makes the collision almost 100% sure. But there are steps towards regulating the air for the urban air mobility. And to make this possible, here there is a very large business for the anti-drone systems, because the basic concept of the United States air and EU air, which they are trying to promote right now, is everything which is not registered, which is not communicating with our flight control system, is illegal and needs to be taken down. And I believe this is the only possible concept at the moment, because otherwise we cannot control what is flying above us. And there will be more and more drones. When we look at the stats I was showing at my presentation, the drone market in 3 years will be worth $36 billion. And most of that money will come from the public sector, from the civil drones that will be flying. It means that in a few years, we'll have millions, hundreds of millions of drones flying over the air, delivering the packages, monitoring the terrain, and they will need to communicate with each other. So I believe the only possible concept here is anything that is not communicating with this central control system needs to be taken down. Did this answer your question, or? Okay.
Okay, thanks. For the finish, because we are almost out of the time, for the finish, I would like to ask you for some predictions. We are not AI, but we can make predictions as well. If you can say me, what will be the biggest change, you can point two of them, in the next 20 years in aviation? Professor, you will be the first one.
Two biggest changes in aviation. Okay, so I think first introducing new fuels, but I don't think that our typical fuel for aircrafts will disappear in the perspective of 20 years. But probably we will observe the elimination of the role, not I think total elimination, but decreasing of the role of the pilots in aircraft, answering to the question leading our discussion. But to make forecasts, to make prediction is not easy, because there are many examples that the predictions are not reality, and our reality is something not predictable in our times. So let me finish on these two general predictions.
Adam?
I would say, from my perspective, there are two main things. You asked about two, right?
Two, yeah.
Okay. Two main things. First of all, it's personal transportation. I believe that during the next few years, it's not perspective of 5 years, but more 10 to 15 years, we'll see the rise of the personal transportation over the air. Because when electric airplanes will be publicly available, we know electricity is cheap, so we'll see Uber over the air, for sure, because there are most of the people, and me too, I hate flying the airplanes because there are a lot of people around me, and it just makes me uncomfortable. This is the first thing. And the second thing, I believe that the airplanes and how we fly will change a lot. Because, you know, right now the speed of the airplane is, Professor, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 900 kilometers per hour. And this is not the maximum speed. This is the optimal speed based on the fuel we use right now. Because the airplanes can fly way faster than the sound goes, but for this, the cost will be so big that it's not power efficient. But when we use the new fuel types like hydrogen, we'll be able to fly it at least twice faster, which means that we'll go from Poland to the US, not in 8 hours, but in 3.5 or 4. And this is dramatically will change how the business will work, because the rise of the personal transportation and the fuel change will determine that we can live in Poland and work in Germany, and every single day go back and through. This will be possible, and I believe this is the future.
Yeah. Thank you. It was really nice to discuss with you one more time. Professor Jarosław Sen, Technical University of Rzeszów. Vadim Melnik, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Drone Hub. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And I'm really glad that Podkarpackie is so important player on the in the game of aviation. So, thanks a lot. Next day, tomorrow, we've got the conference as well, so you are really invited at 2 p.m. Tomorrow we will discuss some customization and innovation things, so it will be amazing too. It was really nice to host you. Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.